This is part 16 of She Prayed Over My Mama. So after I received the deacon and the evangelist thorough itemization of the mortgage proceeds that they had my 78-year-old mother take out, I had a conversation with the deacon who told me that he would be arriving at my mother's home to begin a 3-week process of completing the work. Now, he was supposed to be there on April 22nd between 1 and 1:30 p.m. It's getting close to 1 o'clock. He didn't show. He stated that he was going to a funeral and that he'd be there at 2:30. About 2:30, between 2:30 and 3, he showed up. He showed up with, I believe, 2 or 3 members of the Holy Construction crew, and they proceeded to come in like any other time that we were there and go to my mother's bathroom. Now, at the time, I assumed that they were just going to start in there because, again, they had been slow walking, tiling, or what have you, whatever they were doing. I gave them the space. And while they're doing that, I noticed that they seem to be packing up their tools. So as he was coming out in the living room, I stopped and I asked him, I said, "Hey, y'all leaving?" The deacon then asked, did I have something for him? Yet again, I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I don't know of anything else. If you're talking about these checks, there's nothing came." I said, "You guys have enough money already. You've had $79,000 that you've taken from my mom." I said, "You have enough money." And he says, "No, I've done a lot of extra work." And so at this point, honestly, I lost it. Things got heated. And we are arguing at this point because I was upset. They had my mother's money. Not one time did the deacon or anybody from the Holy Construction crew that attended their church, my mother's church, even ask, "How are y'all doing? How are you all feeling? How's your mother?" You know, whom they claim to profess to have so much love for, Mother Banks. No one asked. All he was concerned about was some more money. I said, "How would you like it if someone did your mother like this?" I said, "If you sat up there and you put $80,000 in your own bank account." He's still packing up this stuff, and the Holy Construction crew is helping him pack up the stuff and leave. And I said, "So how am I supposed to recoup my mother's money?" I said, "What about all this, this flooring and stuff that's here?" Because at the time, I thought that based on the receipts that they had, or itemizations that they had sent to us, and since they took the time to redact the credit card information, that those were actually their credit cards, or those credit cards belonged to the evangelist or the deacon. I said, "I can't return anything because, number one, you didn't give me original receipts, and number two, you blacked out the credit card information. How are we supposed to recoup my mother's money for this stuff that you're not trying to finish?" And he says, "Figure it out," and left. They're still packing up stuff. And I go out to the garage, and because I have stuff in the garage myself, I had bought my tools, and I noticed that they were trying to pack up some of my tools. I was like, that's mine. Leave it here. And so then the deacon tells one of the other young guys that were with him, "Oh, yeah, that's hers." So they were just indiscriminately packing things up. And I didn't get a chance to really see everything that they packed up to make sure that it wasn't anything else that was missing or that would belong to my mom. While we're still there, we're hollering at each other. And then my daughter steps in. She's like, "You need to stop hollering at my mom." She said, "This is not helpful." I'm seeing red at this moment. My mom is in the hospital on ICU. At the time, I did not know that the evangelist actually set up the mortgage loan to begin with. So I want to make sure that that's clear. I didn't realize that this was a scheme from the very beginning. At that point, I said, why would you even put that money in your personal bank account? And he says something to the effect, well, that was a mistake. And just kept, packing up. And I was like, what about this flooring? I cannot return this flooring. Again, there was 114 boxes of what I would say cheap laminate flooring. And I didn't know how it was originally paid for. But again, he was very unhelpful, and said to figure it out. So that's how that ended. Now, a few hours later, I get this email from the evangelist email address. She has the nerve to send an invoice for $39.44, which she alleges from trash that they picked up from packing up their stuff in a trailer. Now, over the next couple of days, we're still looking through my mother's stuff, my mother's documents, looking for policies or what have not, and just trying to get an idea of her bills and things that we need to take care of. And we come across one of my mother's home insurance policy claims. And I'm looking at it. It's for a home insurance claim for a roof. And that piques my curiosity because, again, I didn't know much about this, and perhaps this has something to do with the deacon. And so I look at it. I see a letter. It's dated January 30th. Now, again, this is my mother and father's home insurance policy. And I'm looking over it, and the letter states that there has been checks that have been issued. And as I'm looking over it, the letter, I get to the bottom of the letter from the insurance company. And at the bottom of the letter is the evangelist's full name and CC'd via email. All kinds of alarm bells are going off because I could not understand how this woman was actually copied on my mom's home insurance policy. I did not understand that. And I did not have time to address it at that second, but I knew I had to spring into action. I knew something was really wrong with that. And I just really felt very uneasy. And I knew I had to get to the bottom of that. And I make what's called a MARC report. Now, that MARC report is at the Minnesota Adult Abuse Reporting Center. There was a 1-800 number. And I called the number because I felt really uneasy. And again, I did not know all the facts that I now know. But I knew by doing a little bit of research that there's not a lot of help for persons once they pass when it comes to elderly financial abuse. And I knew that my mom would likely pass soon, given what the doctors were telling us. So I made sure that I made that report. And once I made the report, I knew the next step was that I needed to contact the insurance company. And unfortunately, not long after I filed that MARC report, my mom passed away. But then when I called the insurance company to get to the bottom as to why the evangelist's name was on the insurance claim, is when I learned just how deep this con went.